One of the most important yet underrated aspects of communication is listening. We're all probably familiar with the expression, you have two ears and one mouth. Everyone thinks, yeah, I listen. I do it every day of my life. But you'll be surprised how much you miss. Yes, you might hear, but do you really listen? Listening is the highest form of curiosity. It is fundamental to the success of any communication and is the first step in courageous conversations. If someone feels listened to, and not just in a cursory way, they're more likely to listen to you in return. By listening and acknowledging what you've heard, you've essentially earned yourself currency in the game of communication. Stephen Covey is well known for his research on listening and famously said, most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. You often see this when you're speaking. Even if the other person doesn't actually interrupt, you can see them itching to say something, which shows their mind is solely focused on what they want to say now, not on what you're saying. Covey marks out 5 levels to listening: ignoring, pretend listening, selective listening, attentive listening, and empathic listening. Let's break them down one by one. Ignoring. You literally are paying no attention or disregard what was said. Pretend. You might be nodding and making vocal sounds, but your mind is elsewhere, maybe on what you're going to eat for dinner. Selective. You listen to the parts you like or that interest you and switch off for the rest. Attentive. You take on board what is being said and show that by giving authentic non-verbal cues like nods, engaged body language and vocal sounds. Empathic. You concentrate to understand the intent behind the words and connect the dots. We might think we're listening to someone when in fact we're formulating our response, thinking about something that happened earlier or will happen later in the day. And it's not just about listening to the words being said, it's also listening to what is not said, either through silence, tone, body language and so on. It's very easy to miss subtle things that can reveal so much. So, what are the main barriers for listening? These can be either internal or external. Let's start on internal. Making assumptions. You think you've heard this or something before, so you make your mind up before listening properly, so be careful, hold fire on those. Interrupting. You can't wait for it to be your turn to speak. Hold your tongue, even if you disagree or if they pause for a few seconds. Thinking ahead to the next thing on your to-do list. You might have 1,000,001 things to do and time is short, but stay present and focus on the person in front of you. Misunderstanding. You can literally mishear something or get it wrong, so reflect back and ask them to reconfirm. Attention span. This might be short, particularly if the other person is being slow or talking around the houses. How are you feeling? You might be unwell or in pain, so be aware of how much that is taking you out of the present. And external. These could be environmental distractions, noise, people, telephones, so remove them wherever you can. Different levels of listening can also be categorized as follows. Cosmetic. You're literally paying lip service, similar to pretend. Conversational. You're engaged, but it's relaxed, so other things might take up your brain space alongside. Active. You focus on what is being said, maybe recording information, demonstrating that you're listening. Deep listening. This is where you're more focused on the other person than yourself, and you're really getting a sense of who the other person is and what they're about. I just mentioned demonstrate your listening. This is essential and a powerful way to really let the other person know you've been paying attention. One way of doing this is by reflecting back their language or paraphrasing what they've just said or even summarizing their points. For example, let me share what I've just heard. Or if I were to summarize our conversation so far, or what I hear you saying is. You can follow this with asking for confirmation that this is right before moving on. Often we might give a presentation or briefing and think, okay, I've passed the necessary information on, job done, but that is only half of the step of communication. You need to check that the message has landed and is understood how you want it to be. That means asking questions about what you've just said or asking someone to replay the salient points. That helps mitigate any chances of miscommunication or misunderstanding with potential consequences down the line. An easy way to practice listening skills or see how good you are at it is getting a colleague, family member, friend, whoever, to spend a minute or two describing something to you. That could be telling you about themselves or their job role, a holiday, hobby, you name it. And then after the 2 minutes, relay back to them what you remember. You'll see how quickly we forget things. You'll also see how much attention we have to give to really focus and listen to everything being said and be able to recall it. So Have fun with that.